Welcome to Triple H, Hamilton Happy Hour, where we talk about pianos, talk about music, and everything else in between.
Thank you for attending Hamilton Happy Hour. We are done serving beer now. Have a good day.
Episode 2.
Welcome to episode 2.
Triple H, back in session.
Back in session.
We apologize for all the crunching chips that we did. Last podcast, our producer wasn't, on top of things and telling us what we should and shouldn't do, but he did this time.
Blame it on me.
And we apologize for the delay of the first podcast. So.
Yeah.
Which won't make it to them anyway. Episode number 1 can't be delayed, get it?
It's called being pilot.
Yeah, there you go.
So, we also have Chris Vesenka with us today. Chris has been working with Hamilton Piano for the last couple of years, and he's been learning underneath me. He learned from his uncle Carl Roeder, who got him started into the business, and Chris has come a long way. So, Chris, say hello.
Hey guys, good to talk to you.
So this brings up a good thing for people young into the business. You're 31 now, right? So you started at 29, right?
Yes.
Correct? So you've been in the business for 2 years. So what is your take about this profession?
My take. Well, that could go a lot of ways. My take. Well, it's niche. It is important. Someone has to do it. It takes a lot more skill than it seems like it would. I mean...
Yeah, because when people see us tune a piano, they're like, oh, that's easy. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead and try it. Mm-hmm. Not so easy. I've had concert artists tell me they tried to tune a piano, and they've been in the business for 50 years, and they couldn't do it. Yeah. So it's not as easy. When you see a professional doing it, it's like, moving a piano. You guys make that look so easy. Well, it's because we know what we're doing, Well, so there's a difference.
You know what you're doing, but yeah, you guys do have a habit of making it look very easy.
When I was starting, my uncle gave me this book about different hammer techniques, tuning hammer techniques, and there's like 14 different tuning hammer techniques that I read up on. Yeah, which honestly helped. I mean, it really made a big difference. And if you don't have that resource, that's the one thing I really appreciate about my new career is that I've just had great mentorship across the board. My uncle helped me get started, and he introduced me to a bunch of new people, and then Toby obviously really helped me take off just because the sheer volume in the end, that's what's important, just working with a bunch of different pianos and seeing how the mechanism works in the end.
And repetition's the key to all skill. The more you do it, the easier it gets. In anything in life, like coming to the piano, from playing it to tuning it, restringing it, moving it, so on and so forth. Well, my father always told me that 2 things. 1, fixing anything is easy. Finding out what the problem is the hard part. Once you realize what the problem is, your computer, meaning your brain, will automatically know how to fix it. And he was told by another technician that you have to have the strength of a blacksmith and the skill of a surgeon to be a piano technician. The skill for the fine-tuning and the strength for restringing, moving pianos, so on and so forth, if technicians do that. Most don't. They don't move their own pianos, but some do. So when he told me that, probably 25, 30 years ago, I thought it was a really cool way to put it, with that. But yeah, I mean, when you have people coming into the business, the other problem too that I've noticed is some of the people are like, I just started and I've tuned this many pianos, and they think that they're good until someone who's tuned 1,000 times more to them says, wait a minute, something's off, and we need to work with you and train with you. And they also want to think that they should be, if you're in the career for a year or two, that they should be doing what someone that's been doing it for 20 or 30 years. It doesn't work that way. That's just not in any career, not just this business.
Human nature in general, yeah. Sadly.
You got to earn your stripes.
Yeah.
The 10,000 hours.
Pay your dues and baptism under fire. I mean, I was thrown to into the business. And I remember my dad calling me. I'm on the road tuning, and he goes, "You need to go to the Kravitz Center right now and tune a piano." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You can do it." I'm like, "Dad, no, I can't. I'm not that good." And he goes, "Yes, you can." So funny story is, I go to Kravitz. I'm 19, 20 years old, I think, and it was for Jim Brickman. And so he's doing this holiday show. So I go to Kravitz, and I start tuning the piano, and the technician there got sick, so he had to leave, and the piano was, partially tuned. It wasn't a full tuning. So I start tuning the piano. Then the manager comes up to me and says, "You need to stop. We want to rehearse." Now I'm really freaking out because I'm like, whoa, this piano's halfway tuned. I just got called in here. I'm nervous. I'm a young kid, 20 years old, and I'm scared. And because I didn't get to complete my job. Let me complete my job, then critique me. It's a different story than doing it halfway through my tuning. So they said, "Nope, we need to rehearse." I said, "Okay." So I told Mr. Brickman, I just started tuning it. The piano is not in tune. While they're rehearsing, I'm backstage. I called my dad. And as sick as my dad was, I said, "Dad, I just need your help. Please come to the Kravitz and back me up. You don't have to tune the piano. Just check my tuning after we're done, because this is what happened. They stopped me in my tuning. I don't want there to be a problem, blah, blah, blah." So what happens is my dad showed up, and of course all the stagehands love my dad. And, "Hey, Reggie, how you doing?" And blah, 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 blah. After we're done rehearsing, the manager, Jim Brickman, goes to his manager and says, "Yeah, make sure this piano's in tune." So I start tuning the piano, and I tuned it. My dad checked it. He didn't have to touch anything, change anything. The manager, we called him over, checked the tuning. He checked it. Everything was great. He did pick out one note, which is how I learned about a wild string in the piano. And my father explained to him, "You hear this note, bing, it's got a wave in it, yeah, 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 yeah. It's not wah, it's yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just like that, yeah, yeah, yeah."
How was it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so what happened was then he was like, okay with that. But another time that happened to me with Nora Jones. I'm tuning for her for Live Nation, and her piano had a very wild string in it. So I pointed it out to the manager, and the manager says, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And she goes, "Hold on a second. Go tell the sound technician what you just told me." She brought him over, and I explained it to him. He goes, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "What's the big deal?" And he goes, "Do you know this whole concert season, I've been thinking it was in my sound system? You're the first person to point it out to me that it was in the piano." It was driving him nuts.
And for people that may not know what a wild string is, that could be like an imperfection in the string. Or...
Correct. Every piano's got one. Some are more noticeable than others, and there's no such thing as a perfect string in a piano. You will find something. It could be as slow as a wah, wah, wah. It could be a wah, 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 wah. It could. But you can find one in any piano. It's an imperfect instrument made by imperfect people, so you're going to have that in there. Just some are more noticeable than others. Well, some of the things that Chris has been doing is working on the cruise ships for Princess Cruise Lines, an account that we picked up a couple years ago. And that's what sped up your tuning. When that account came to us, I was like, "Hey, Chris, this is really going to help you speed up. You're going to be able to do a lot more tunings and this and this and this." And it did, right? You got so much experience in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's all about volume and experience, and I was able to tune 5 to 8 pianos in like a 6-hour period
without leaving. So
it's all within a very small. I can walk. I can walk to each piano instead of having to drive 30 minutes. So that definitely helps. Another great thing about the cruise ships is that they're tuned so frequently. Every couple weeks I'm on there. So
how from say you're going from 1 or 2 cruises from one tuning to the next or so, right? Thereabouts. And
within the cruise ships?
Yeah, say this one particular piano, or on this, you go on one ship and you tune 4 or 5 pianos or whatever it is. Next time you see those pianos, how many cruises has that ship done?
It's usually around. It's one.
Just one.
I
so
believe it's.
every time
they go to the. It really depends on the cruise because they have different schedules, right? So sometimes they go to the West Coast, and they have another technician in California, and then over the
for now.
The summer season, they go to Europe, I believe, and they have other technicians there. So you can really tell the quality of the technician when they come back.
Well, and that's the cool thing too, because now what they're wanting us to do is go to California to start doing the ships over there and bringing the pianos that we're supplying them, taking them off the ship, putting ours on, and then going to California or Vancouver or Seattle or wherever, and then taking those off, putting ours on, or to rebuild theirs, put those on, and bring them back here and keep doing that. And that is such a cool experience. I'm really looking forward to doing for a couple of reasons. One, the quality of our work, I know how good it is. I'm not just saying that because it's our company. I'm saying it because if I went to another rebuilder shop and I saw what they do, if they do what we do, I would be so impressed. And I am when I look at other rebuilder shops. I'm like, oh man, that is so cool. Oh, that is so great.
British cousin.
Huh?
Your British cousin.
My British cousin, that we have the same last name, but we're not related, but maybe we are somewhere. And, I found him on Facebook, and just the work that he does, it is so precise and so clean, and it's like, man, that is so good. And that is what I think people should strive to do, is because the moment you think in this business you know it all, you've lost. You're done. That's it. You're not trying to excel. And we are always like that. We're always trying to find a better way to do something, whether we come up with it ourselves or we look at someone else's work and seeing them do it. And when we see them do it, we want to strive to be that type of shop. Our work is good. Nothing wrong with it. We do work for people all over the country, even send pianos out of the country. But we want to always strive to be better. And I remember one time years ago, Jim Rickson is one of our technicians. I was sitting down with him and talking to him, and I said, yeah, Jim, I don't really think I'm that great of a piano tuner, And he goes, that's what makes you a good tuner, because you're always striving to be better. And I didn't think about it that way. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not as bad as I thought I was, But everybody, you can always learn. That's the beauty of this business, whether you're coming into it or whether you've been in it for 40, 50 years. When I first got into it, I came into a problem that I had no clue what the problem was. And I said, Dad, can you come to this customer with me and tell me what's wrong? I have no clue what's going on. And he said, well, he knew exactly what the problem was. But he said, at that time, I think it was 35 years. In my 35-year career, I never had this happen to me. But I know what's wrong, and this is how we got to fix it. And we did, and brought the piano back to life. But he never had that problem in his whole career.
Well, talking about improving and stuff like that, it is literally written into the human brain to optimize and improve, and that is one of the main functions that the human brain does, is it learns how to improve and optimize itself, basically. So when you're saying technicians and things like that, you're learning and always striving to be better, it's like that is literally what your human nature is telling you to do, because that is what is biologically basically programmed into you, basically.
And I think what happens, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, I think what happens
anybody listening to this podcast obviously isn't going to be offended by anything, because they are tasteless listening to you talk. So
there's our egomaniac. Touche. I think what happens is when you are in any business, but I use this as my reference because it's really all I know, is that people stall. They stall. You're going up, and then you just kind of plateau. And if you don't keep going up or doing new different things, that's why I love doing the custom rebuilding work, because with the custom rebuilding work, you are it's different. It's something that no one's ever seen before. So when we rebuild a piano and we're making it, metal legs, acrylic top, putting these strings in and making that piano sound and play and look like no other piano in the world, with the hundreds of thousands of pianos that there are, that to me makes sense. That to me is like, taking it up a notch and making a customer that piano is for a certain customer. And our design for that is to portray to that person, but you also don't want to narrow the market down too much where, it's like, okay, 1 million people, like this piano, or 100 people like it. So we try to do it very tastefully, but it's also something we just rebuilt that Mason and Hamlin symmetrogram or butterfly gram, made it purple, put a stop rail in it, which we were told could not be done, and which we did because there was literally only millimeters of clearance to make it happen. and we made the legs special with her father's initials into the legs and into the lyre, and we did the color she wanted, which was purple, and the piano looked phenomenal when we were done with it.
By the way, for all those listeners out there, these photos can be viewed on our Facebook, Instagram, and our website, which I highly recommend you check out because there are a lot of custom pianos built on that site.
And
the website is...
Well, I mean, anyone listening to this obviously knows our website to get it, but yeah.
TripleH.com. No.
HamiltonPianoCo.com, made by Minnerly Media.
Edit that out.
Which we're in the middle of a lot of... we may have touched on this in the pilot, but some of the custom stuff that we're in the middle of right now. The gold piano.
That's the second one that customer has done with us. We did on an acrylic piano for him. Then we just did this gold one that we're finishing up. It's going to Alabama to the Admiral Hotel. And I was told by my customer that the first piano we did for him, he says he has 5-6 people a day at least, or 5 or 6 families at least, circling that piano, taking pictures with it. And so it's like
and that's in South Carolina?
South of North Carolina. I don't remember.
And that's in a hotel too, right?
Yes, correct. And it's just cool because that's like going to Disney World and seeing Mickey Mouse, and getting your picture with him. It's like that piano is our celebrity. That's our fingerprint. Our fingerprint, and the same thing with the tuning. We were talking about this before, Chris. When I follow your tuning, I know you tuned it, even if I didn't know that you were the last person to touch the piano. Same thing with your uncle, same thing with other technicians. It's a fingerprint. So when you are tuning when you tune a piano and you're done with it, and then if I got to go after it 6 months later, I can say, in my head, I don't know for certain, but usually I'm pretty spot on, like, this is so-and-so's tuning. It's a fingerprint. It really is. Because there's no two tuners that are alike. My grandfather, father, and uncle, and me, and now my son, 5 of us, all different tunings. Even though we were all trained the right way, it's still going to be 5 different tunings. And you never tune the same piano the same way. You can't. All pianos are different. There's different stringing scales. There's different lengths. There's different tension. It's all different.
So circling back to the cruise ships, we kind of went off. When you see the pianos again, I'm interested in knowing how off those pianos are after a cruise or 2. Because they get banged around a little bit, even though they're mounted, for people who don't know, they're mounted in cleats in the floor of the deck of the ship in some kind of way, but they still get banged around in rough seas. So what kind of difference do you see in the piano from one time to the next?
It really depends. I mean, it depends on where the ship is going, because the environment is a big factor.
Right.
We got the humidity of the ocean.
The humidity,
the salt,
temperature. It's all like sometimes I'll tune a piano and it's 2 weeks later it's perfectly fine. It's basically right where I left it. Other times it's sharp. Other times it's flat. Depends on where they're going, and also the performer. I mean, I've heard some crazy stories, but the performers on these ships use their feet to hit the keys sometimes.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
They're
Ben
dancing
Folds.
on the keyboard or using their ass to
we see the condition of the pianos after we pick them up. That much is obvious.
They beat these pianos down, that's for sure. They're not gentle with them. I get a big range. Often, I try every time I get on the ship, I want to keep the piano as perfectly in tune as possible. And often it is relatively close to where I left it, but you can tell when there's a big change in the environment for sure.
So another question is for all you piano people out there: do you think a piano is meant to be abused like that, like hardcore, like beaten, played?
Some pianos, yes, they were built solid enough that they can take it. Most pianos, no, but yes, you have your higher end pianos that you have artists that are playing. In a lot of my concert halls, they have high-end pianos that get used so much and not beaten with your elbows or butts or freaking
hardcore.
Right. Yeah. And they can take it.
Yamahas are great. I mean, basically every piano.
Your Yamaha, Kawai, Steinways, Mason & Hamlins, I would say
Bosendorfer.
Bosendorfer, those brands, yes, they can take it. You can't. It's just like my father would tell me, if you go to a customer's home and they had a baby grand, and you tell them, listen, this piano cannot be tuned like a contra piano. So if Uncle Henry comes over here and he's a contra pianist, he's going to knock it out of tune because it's not designed for that. But the bigger the piano, the better, the more it can take. And the better quality, the better it can take. So it makes a difference.
Like your Kimballs, they're not going to take that kind of beating. Your
Correct.
Kanabis, they're not going to take that.
There's nuance to everything, though. I mean, depending on the age of the piano and how the pin block. The pin block is, in the end, that's the biggest factor. Like as far as the tuning is concerned. If a pin block is old and it hasn't been restrung with new pins, it's going to go out. It's just going to go out much faster because you need that torque to hold the tuning.
And I'll give you a prime example of what happened to me today. So I'm at a customer's home because we had just tuned the piano. One of our techs went out there, and she's we've been tuning for like 5-6 years. She loves us. Everything's great. She's just like, Tobias, the piano is something, just it doesn't sound crisp. So I'm thinking it's a voicing thing, And I said, well, let me come out there and see what it is. So I go out there, and it's slightly out of tune. Not bad. It's a Sommer Model 54 older piano. It was rebuilt. They're good pianos, but they're still okay pianos. And so I said I knew exactly what it was because it was the tuning. Unisons were out. So I said, well, I'll take care of it. So I'm going to go through the tuning first because I said, is it too bright? Is it too soft? No. It's just something's not in line. I said, okay. So it's the Unisons. So I start tuning it. Well, what's happening when I'm tuning it? My hand's getting cold. Why? The air vent is blowing right on my hand. So I touch the plate. The plate is freezing cold. So I'm tuning it. I get through it, and then I go up. I go to the upper registers. Everything's perfect. I go to the bass. The bass slightly off. I just touched it up a little bit, and I called the customer into the room, and I said, your main problem was this part of the bass in the tenor section, correct? She goes, yes. I said, your air vent is blowing right on here. I said, touch your plate. You feel it's cold. She goes, yeah, it is cold. I said, because that's going to be on. What's going to happen is when it shuts off, it's going to fluctuate. And it even did it to me when I was there. And she's like, oh, it sounds so much better. And she's like, still this one note. I said, yeah, it moved on me. The other part of the problem was I said, first things first, move those vents so it's away from the piano. If that takes care of the problem, great. The second thing is the rebuilder did a good job. I'm not complaining about his work. But he didn't put plate bushings in, and the pins were so high up that when I'm tuning it, what happens if you don't push the pin in deep enough? You're losing torque, and you've got the string pulling from a higher part of the pin, so all the pins are pulling more forward than they should be. Right, and it felt squishy to me. So I said, if that doesn't fix the problem with the air vent, I need to come back and tap these tuning pins down about 5-6 millimeters. And that'll fix it. I said, there's no sense in putting the plate bushings in now because it's too late. We'd have to restring the piano, take it all out and put it in and redo that. So, but she was ecstatic that, we took care of it.
That's happened to me a few times, actually, where I'm tuning a piano and there's an air vent right above the piano. I'm like, while I'm tuning, it changes pitch. Like I'll tune the whole tremor. Treble.
Edit that one out.
Yeah. It's happy hour. Treble, tenor to treble, and then I'll go back to the bass and I'll hit the tenor again. And the tenor, if it's cold air, it's going to be higher. The pitch is going to raise, and it's just because the air conditioning turned on while I was tuning the piano, and that changed the whole environment.
Immediate change.
That's not something that we ever really pay attention to, which we ought to.
Yeah, exactly. Just let them know. Look at the air vent and said, if this is blowing on your piano, you need to have it blowing a different way. Because I've had this happen 2 times. One with a concert pianist customer of mine years ago. He's passed on, but his name was Edward Wiseman. He was a Steinway artist, and he had a Steinway B in Palm Beach, and I would tune his piano. My uncle tuned before me, and I tuned for him. I would tune it every 3 months. And that happened to me, the air vent, because it's against the wall, and the air vent's blowing on. I told Mr. Wiseman, we got to move these vents. And he goes, no, I'm going to cover over it. I want it blocked off. I don't even want the air blowing on the piano anywhere near it. And I said, okay, and that's what he did. No problems. Another time, I'm tuning a Baldwin, I think it was an R or an M. Great piano, solid piano. And the customer had high ceilings and all this glass, windows. And so I'm sweating in her home, tuning the piano, all of a sudden, it dropped like 15, 20 degrees. And I'm not kidding. It was like, I'm like, now I'm cold. What's going on? A cloud went in front of the sun, and it wasn't beaming down on me and the piano. My tuning went all over the place. All over the place. And then about 10, 15 minutes later, because now I'm going back over it, the cloud was gone, sun's hitting it, and I told her I have no control over this. You need to put drapes in or something to keep that from hitting the piano because I had no control. I didn't. I mean, and that's something technicians don't have control over that I think customers need to realize is that we have no control over who plays the piano, the humidity changes in your home, the sun hitting the piano, so all those factor into why things are what they are. And sometimes customers will call and say, oh, you just tuned my piano, but we have a sticking key. That has nothing to do with the tuning. Completely something different. And that's why, we make sure everything's working. You can't tune a piano if you got a sticking key. So if it was sticking, we would fix it. But then humidity changes, the wood, it swells, contracts, and expands, blah, blah, blah. And you get a sticking key a week later, that's humidity issue. It's not, the tuning.
That reminds me of the worst piano tuning experience I've ever had. And
It wasn't at my house.
it was not at your house. Your house is
There was, he's just not going to say it on the podcast.
No, the worst piano tuning experiences are always the outdoor ones. Bar none. Always, because you can't control it. It is up to the environment and when you're tuning the piano.
And you're at the mercy of where you're at. And you can only do the best that you can do.
Yeah.
There's times that I've showed up to tune at an amphitheater and the piano wasn't even there. And I'm just like, well, what am I going to do? So I would run at the last second and grab a piano and put it on stage for an artist because it was Bob Lappin. One time a piano wasn't there for his concert. And I was there to tune it before rehearsal. And I'm sitting there going, he is going to freak out, with this. And so I dropped everything I was doing. I as quick as I could, got my Steinway B, brought it on stage, and I just set it up, didn't have time to tune it. I told him, Mr. Lappin, I'm so sorry, there wasn't a piano. We just went ahead and got it done for it, here, and I'll tune it after you're done with rehearsal, and the show must go on. That's the saying. The show must go on.
End, yeah. But anyways, my experience, not going to mention names, but it was this guy on Ocean in Palm Beach, and man, they were having this outdoor. It was some type of party, and they were setting up while I was tuning the piano. They were setting up the entire. It was this outdoor. It was not a pergola, chairs, yeah. So in one ear, I'm trying to tune this piano. In one ear, I have a circular saw going on, spraying me with sawdust while I'm tuning the piano. And the other ear, a guy's doing mic check for the entire time I am tuning this piano. So check 1 2, check 1 2, and then and I'm getting sprayed with there's sawdust in the piano.
That's gonna help.
It was a rental. It was
clank.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No tapping on the table, man.
It was for emphasis. But the point being,
this went in the built a whole room.
you can only do. You're given a situation, you can do the best.
I've had it so bad where you're tuning for a concert and you're doing sound check and lighting check and all this stuff, and my ear is as close to the string as it possibly can to try to hear the best that I can. I mean, that's okay. Look at it this way: for concerts, we have it's like NASCAR. You have the driver and you have the pit crew. We're the pit crew. The artist is the driver. And it's our job to make sure that piano is the best that it can be. And sometimes we have obstacles in our way. It's just life. It's just timing. There's just so much going on that the minutes that go by can cause a delay in the show getting on time. I've been we work for Live Nation. I've done so many concerts for them, and I love it. I love seeing all the stagehands grouping together and putting the stage together, and then you see. How it all comes together in such a short amount of time for a 2, 3, 4 hour concert. and then it just gets torn down. And
The takedown.
the takedown, the loadout. Yeah, Jackson Brown, the loadout. We were listening to that last night. It's such a good song, and the thing is that people don't see what's behind the curtain. They don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff, except for maybe when I have to go on stage during intermission and do touch up on a piano, and it's then they see us, you know. Other than that, they don't see the pit crew. Well, on TV they do, you know, but they don't get to see what we do. The mover's bringing the piano in, the tuner doing what he does, and then the mover's taking it out, and so on and so forth. There's so much involved to make. It's like doing a TV show or a movie. The amount of people it takes to do that, the amount of time it takes to do that. You see all the credits, you're like, wow, look at that list of all those people. But it takes so long to make a 2-hour movie. A 2-hour movie is not made in 2 hours. It's made in probably 20,000 hours, you know? And there's so much behind the scenes with stuff.
Take a 30, 40-minute TV show. 25-minute TV show like The Office, and it takes them a week to make one episode.
Right.
So a full week of 8-10-hour days to film to basically make one 25-minute episode at the end. So, yeah, it's a lot of work that gets your final product.
There is. And, you know, getting back to the rebuilding part of it, you know, the custom work that we're doing, like the acrylic pianos, you know, we've done acrylic pianos for people all over the country. And they love the work that we're doing because we're making something different, you know. And with what we're doing is reaching out to, it's like getting back to the pit crew too. Without the piano teachers, you know, we need them as much as they need us. We need them because they're the backbone to keeping the piano business alive. That's why we love working with piano teachers all the time. And being the president of the Piano Technicians Guild for all of South Florida, we work with a lot of teachers. And keeping them, trying to make sure they got a place to have a recital and that their students are being able to excel the way that they need to excel with their lessons. And it's taking something, it's a win-win-win. You know what I mean? It's like this business, that's my favorite saying in case anyone, you know, if you hear me say it a million times, that's my favorite saying. If it's not a win-win-win, it doesn't work. If it's a win-win-lose, it doesn't work. It's got to be a win-win-win. And it's working with everybody
If it's
else.
a win-win, you need one more win.
Right.
So make it a win.
Don't make it a win-win-win-win, though, because then that's too many wins.
Too many wins.
Well, I don't know, you know, but the trifecta is better than.
Then you might be in the Bellagio.
But working with all these teachers and technicians and pianists, you know, the pianists need our services. We need the services from the teachers. You know, the teachers need our services for the you know, to make sure good pianos are being, you know, brought into the homes. And that whole
Tuned properly.
Yeah, take this.
Taken care of.
Take this shop. You know, we have 20 people that work here, okay? But now it's even more than that because we probably have over hundreds of people we work with. You know, we definitely work with thousands of people because we have thousands and thousands of customers. I mean, and, you know, when you take it outside of this shop, because this shop is that one entity, but then you start, hey, this piano teacher, you work with this teacher and you're trying to make sure that their students are getting a good piano, because we talked about this, I think, at the last podcast, where a digital piano is not a piano. I think it should be called a digital keyboard. A digital piano is not a piano. An acoustic piano is a real piano. It is a handcrafted by some, you know, manufacturers, but it's a handcrafted instrument. You'll never get the touch and tone out of a digital piano you can out of an acoustic.
Just to play devil's advocate, though, is an electric guitar not a guitar? Because an electric guitar is a instrument completely different from an acoustic guitar, though they share the same shape and fretboard and the way you play. They produce different sounds, different everything.
But you can still play the electric guitar without power.
Well, that's not the point he's making, because you can play with or without power. I mean, technically, you can play
You still have strings. You still have strings.
I would argue that an electric guitar is
Still a guitar.
It's not like a
It's not
guitar.
It's not a fake sound.
No. It's like a Guitar Hero. You know, like you're still using strings and there's a pickup. You know, that's
Still using
piano
acoustic.
still pressing keys.
Yeah, no, but there's no strings in a
No, but
keyboard.
as much as like, look, I started out on a digital piano and a digital keyboard, and I very, very quickly wanted an acoustic because to me there's more depth you can get with an acoustic instrument. But just keep in mind that there are people that the only pianos they have are digital pianos. There are this and that. You don't alienate the people who play digital pianos by saying, well, that's not a real piano and things like that, because that is...
No, but there's a difference. When you're strumming strings and you're playing keys, the touch is very excruciating important that the keys have to have the right touch. And a guitar, you don't have that issue. So what happens is on a keyboard, you can't mimic it. You just can't mimic it. But on with a guitar, when you're strumming it, you're strumming strings, 6 strings. We have 220 strings in a piano, 88 keys with 8,000 moving parts just in the action alone. And in order for an artist to get out of it, what they need is the touch. So you have to be able to do that, and you cannot get that in a keyboard.
No, weighted keys in a keyboard, no matter how advanced of the weighted keys, whether it be Yamaha's, Clavinova, or whatever, they're one where they have a U1 action in it and stuff, it still doesn't give you the same movement and fluidity that you get with the keys. But like saying just, to say a digital piano is not a piano is still technically anything.
It's a piano-shaped object, like Steinway calls other pianos. Yeah. It's a piano-shaped object, but it's not a piano.
Is an electric car a car, or is an electric car a computer on wheels? Because
computer on wheels.
Computer on wheels.
It just depends what you want to classify it as, I guess. But just be careful with the way you are.
What about a hybrid piano?
I understand what you're saying.
And that's the beauty of the podcast. It's the beauty of everybody listening is because there's going to be so many different opinions. It's just like when you got one piano, you can have 10 different tuners, you can have 10 different opinions, 10 different pianists, 10 different songs. That's the beauty of it, is to be able to have your opinion shared. It's just for me, when you go to a piano teacher,
that's what
is the piano? Right.
And when a student gets to a certain level, the piano teacher is going to tell the parents they need a piano.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not they need a different keyboard.
You cannot get you cannot play fortissimo or pianissimo on a keyboard the proper way like you can on a piano. It's impossible. I don't care how good. You could get a $50,000 digital keyboard, not piano, and it's still not going to be the same. You have to have the piano is an expression of the person playing. It's an extension of the person playing it. Now, how can you get that out if you can't? The touch that's the important part of it. Tone is also important, but between the two, we're talking about the touch. It's impossible
because the tone has come light years from way digital pianos were in the 90s when I got into business and stuff like that. Because they're recording on top high-end pianos, with high-end recording equipment to make these sounds in these digitals. But it's the touch that still just is, going to be like.
Well, again, you obviously not trying to, you have a mechanism that has how many moving parts to how many different things to get different pressure levels and stuff.
It's a sensor. You're playing sensors. That's all you're playing. You're touching keys that are sensors.
Yeah.
It's not the actual movement of all those moving parts working simultaneously together to get the sound out of the piano that needs to be there.
It becomes not a percussion instrument at that point.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
And a piano is a percussion instrument. Very good point. It is a percussion instrument, and a keyboard/digital piano is not.
That's maybe the biggest defining.
I think we just had a moment because
probably do some shots there.
Hey,
okay.
That sounds a lot better than saying, well, digital piano is not a real piano. That's all I'm saying is that look, I got my love for piano because of a digital piano. So if it, to discredit a digital piano,
because like you said,
drug in the end.
because there's a lot of people like you said that can't get a piano yet, and you don't want to discourage them saying they're like, nah, you're not in this club. You just have a piece of plastic. Get out of here.
That's my only point. Now, you're talking about someone who has a Yamaha UX at home, and that's not enough for me because I need a 9-foot Mason and Hamlin concert grand or something like that because I need the extra strings, the extra everything, because that much makes a difference.
Exactly. You just proved my point. You would never be able, you could go to a digital keyboard and get a beginner's one and grow into the biggest one ever. It's still not going to suffice. But an acoustic piano will. So thank you. You just proved my point. I appreciate that.
I wasn't trying to disprove your point. I was just trying to say
Ian and I like to argue a lot, just so y'all know.
Trying to draw the lines.
You just don't alienate the people who are piano lovers, and that's the only answer.
And that's
that
what they
have.
got.
That's the only thing I'm going to say, because I felt a little defensive.
It's a good point. Yeah, I could tell.
I'm like, yo, what are you saying? That what I started on wasn't a piano, though.
So then why'd you get an acoustic piano?
Because it's better.
Why are you looking?
Because this teacher told me it isn't one.
I'm not drunk on your level to, see your, but no, I'm agreeing with you that yes, and a piano is a very unique instrument on its own, and yes, you can't produce the sounds out of there. It is a testament to the instrument that no amount of digital in the world can make a piano sound the way that a piano sounds.
Yeah, you just can't.
I just want to play devil's advocate though, and it's because the variation of pianos is so wide. There are so many different types of pianos, and I can think of a $500 Yamaha keyboard that sounds better than a $1,000 Spinet. That's
Well, listen. First of all, if you're playing $1,000 Spinet, you pay too much for that piano. And second of all, yeah, you're comparing a Spinet. I mean, a Spinet is there's a reason they don't make them anymore. Indirect action, and everything else. We could
drop
have a 10
action.
hour.
Ugh. They don't make sense.
It's horrible, huh?
They don't make sense.
So
No,
bad.
they haven't made Spinets in decades.
Also, Roadmaster.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The disconnect.
Yeah.
It can disconnect the action
Right.
when you fold it up. Oh my god, that hurts my head.
But the thing is I will retract what I was saying. I still agree that a digital piano is not a piano; it's a digital keyboard. But for purposes of getting somebody into the piano world, start with that.
Yeah.
Not a problem
100%.
for 6 months or a year. But a perfect example today. The customer, I talked to her earlier in the week. She came in today. Her teacher or her teacher told her you need to get a piano. She bought a digital piano and keyboard. 4 years ago, and her child is doing very good and progressed. And the teacher said, "You need a piano." So why waste the money? They paid $7,000 for this digital keyboard. Why waste the money on that when if you would have gotten a piano to begin with, that child would have excelled 10 times faster on a piano, not a keyboard. So now they came in, they bought a piano from us, and they started with a vertical, start small, which I always agree. If you're going to buy something, I'd say just start with a small vertical piano. You can always upgrade it down the road if your child progresses. Don't spend $20,000 now. Spend a couple thousand. Then if they progress, yes, you do have your pros and cons.
And then also you start
Plus, you get a trade-in value with us as well when you
choose a
purchase.
piano. You're not going to know, does that person like heavier weighted keys, brighter piano, darker piano? Is it, there's a lot more.
They don't learn that till later on down the road. But if you were to get a $500 keyboard, no problem. That's fine to start with. But 9 out of 10 teachers do not want to teach students on a keyboard.
9 out of 10 teachers definitely oppose.
No. And so the teacher told them, you need to get a piano.
So here, I want to bring up a different side of this, a different point to this argument here about take out the physical feel and the way that the piano works. There's something to be said that the key acoustics of a piano have much more significance to a person versus just sound coming from the speaker. Because
absolutely,
the resonance of a piano is,
it's a feeling you get back from your fingers through your soul. Your soul, really. The piano has a soul, and we have a soul. And what happens is when that extension is when you're playing the keys, that part is you're giving the piano what it's giving back to you. A keyboard does not do that. Right? Life. You're giving it life. And that's what we do when we rebuild it. We're breathing life back into a piano. We just did that, We just did that 1887 Steinway C. Yep. We brought that piano back to life. And it wasn't 100% dead yet, but it
was on its way.
It was on its way. That piano, the lady that came in, the teacher that played it, she said, "This is the best piano I've ever played." We rebuilt it. We gave it another 100 years of life. I mean, the piano's 140-something years old almost, and that piano sounds magnificent. Have you played that yet, Ian?
No, but I will before we leave.
Yeah, I knew you will.
You think you could get 100 years out of a digital piano?
Nope.
I didn't even get a year and a half out of my piece of shit. Casio.
Exactly. And you only played one song on it.
Well, when we get done with this,
and it's not Casio, it's Casio.
Casio. No, it's Casio. Certain people that are Casio dealers prefer to say Casio.
Well, that's like.
But my Casio watch says different.
That's Casio.
But that's what I'm saying. Pianos don't have souls in them. You can't say a piano has a soul. Piano is let me finish. The piano is like the movie Avatar, not Last Airbender. Avatar, it is an empty shell that a person with a soul can then occupy and put their soul in it. Because if you have telling me that piano has a soul, then why does it sound different when 10 people play it? The piano itself doesn't have a soul. It's the embodiment of the soul that the person plays that.
No, wrong.
Go ahead, tell me how a piano has a soul.
A piano has lungs. The soundboard is the lungs of the piano. The piano has a heart. It's the pin block of the piano. That is the torque in it is what holds everything together. And then the sound that comes out of it, the piano does not make its own sound. It's the artist. So I agree with you on that. It's the artist that's bringing it out of it. But you got to have something into it to be able to get out of it.
That's why I made the analogy of Avatar. Because have you ever seen Avatar?
Yeah, I've seen Avatar.
So you know how they
You
are
weren't
flesh
bored
bodies
yesterday.
that have lungs and this and that the person then takes their consciousness and occupies it. Not saying that the machine doesn't have this thing, but I'm saying it's like trying to make it, the piano is more unique than that. One piano doesn't have one soul. One piano, you can have 10 million people play that piano, and it's going to sound different for every person playing it.
Exactly. But the sound that comes out of that piano, whether it's from you, me, whoever, it's still there.
One note.
One note. It's still there. So you're telling me that it doesn't have that life in it? It doesn't have that soul in it?
Because you can have a great artist play an amazing piano, and they go over there and play that Spin It that we were talking about, $500 Spin It, and it's not going to have the same production.
So that's the quality of the sound, though. That's the quality of the components. I'm trying to deceive.
Therein lies the soul of the piano.
Exactly. As people who spend all
And
day.
it breathes in the sense that the soundboard flexes, giving different tonal quality. The hammers, the way that the hammers hit the strings, give different tones. The hammers swell, contract. All of that gives different tone to the piano. Bearing, when the soundboard flexes.
Quirks.
Sorry.
That was him farting.
How hard you hit the
That was my
key.
chair farting.
But that's characteristics of the instrument. That's not, when you say soul, that means that piano has a unique.
What does soul mean?
Well, I was going to say, we're arguing really semantics of what you think soul means, right?
But
we're really not even talking about pianos.
I know. He's got to argue with me all the freaking time.
Did you want to see an entertaining podcast or a boring podcast?
Life is soul, right? Soul is life. A piano has a life.
So is it after 7 months or 3 months of buying a piano that it has a soul?
4.
4 months, okay.
No, it's 3.75 months, okay?
It's actually after 2 weeks after you tune it.
2 weeks after.
Tuning it is important.
Yeah. Keep your piano happy. Have it tuned regularly. But it's if people looked at pianos, let's reverse it. If people looked at pianos that way, instead of looking at them as a piece of furniture, people would take care of their pianos more. They would. Because they don't know there's 20 tons of tension in the piano. If you don't tune it regularly, you have to keep pitch raising it and doing this and you're causing stress to the piano, which can cause cracks in the soundboard, so on and so forth. So if more people looked at the piano as having a soul, it's not alive. It is, I mean, in that sense where it can walk and talk and blah blah blah, but it's got a voice. It does have a voice. It does have the lungs and the heart in that sense of it.
The heart does beat.
Right, exactly.
Percussion comes in play.
So those are the things that if people looked at the piano that way, I think they'd have a new appreciation for the piano. Some people do. Yeah, I just want a piece of furniture.
Oh.
And to me, that kind of hurts because it's not a piece of furniture; it's a musical instrument. There's a difference.
It helps if they buy a piano.
It does help. I'm not complaining about that.
I would argue that it's never
But if they also want to learn
it's
the
never
ins and the outs,
initially a piece of furniture.
they want to learn the ins and the outs of the piano, come by the shop. We'll show them around.
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to buy anything from us. We'll give you a free tour.
customers
I mean,
Absolutely.
For anybody
We show
who
you
is
every
out of the state,
in.
we do offer video tours of here as well. You can get video walkthroughs of the building and see everything behind the scenes.
Yeah, and if you're local, like we told a couple customers today, one of them had a young kid that was just getting ready to start lessons. Like, bring them by the shop.
Yep.
Let them see the ins and the outs.
we give the kids parts to take home with them, of Steinway parts that have come out of a piano and how it works, and see how all these
Inside
parts
the action.
move.
And,
Yeah. You get a different buying experience from us because we're not salesmen. We are piano rebuilders, and we are going to educate you on the what's the best thing for you, not for us, for you. If it's a budget, it's one thing. If it's cosmetic color, it's another thing. If it's touch and tone, it's another thing. The most
size
important,
of your house,
the size of it. The most important thing is the touch and tone. What is your needs? It's more important for us to have the right piano in your home than to be here, because we know that if it's in your home being used and enjoyed, that means more to us than anything else in selling a piano. It really does, and that's how we have a different look at pianos, and I think most people have.
In the end, your number one company mission statement would be keeping pianos alive, keeping the art
Exactly.
of true piano, not digital, true pianos alive, and that would be, hey, if some other piano store has someone buying piano from them instead of you, you're happy because that means that the art of piano is still being kept alive, whether it's from you or anybody else.
Correct.
So,
absolutely. And we still service those pianos too, whether they were bought from us. I mean, we work with dealers. We're here for them as much as they're here for us. So it's it's not competition. It's collaborating, and working together.
As a photographer, do you know how many other photographers I actually train, help, give them techniques, how to get better business, things like that? Because I'm like, hey, here's my digital piano that everything's, a cell phone. I think people think, oh, I can just take a photo with a cell phone and that's it. So like I'm here helping other photographers with their businesses, trying to keep the true art of photography alive, where, it's the same thing, you got to keep, I think we mentioned last time, Apple got slammed pretty bad with backlash because of their ad with the new iPad Pro. I don't know if you heard of what they had happen, but basically their initial ad was a trash compactor style scene, taking every type of music instrument, calculators, everything an iPad could do, and taking music instruments, smashing it into the iPad, going, this device replaces everything. And everybody's like, well, you basically think this can replace a piano, a real acoustic instrument, and all this stuff. And it's like, no, you Apple. And they got a huge backlash for that, because it's like, you can't take an iPad and say that as a piano, So, yeah, it's a matter of just keeping the appreciation for true acoustics alive.
And
there's your digital and there's your digital piano.
Well, as an Apple user myself, I can't be, it is against my terms of service to say F you to Apple. I'm joking.
I was going to say, if you're using a MacBook right now, does that actually record?
Yeah. The thing's going to start smoking and blowing up. But, it's, once again, win-win-win. If it's not a win-win-win, it doesn't work. Whether it's for the teacher, the artist, the technicians, and the students, it's got to win for everybody. And when you take an instrument, and not a piece of furniture, an instrument.
It can be both.
And
It can be both, but it can't be one.
It can't be both if it's still looked at as an instrument first. If it's looked at as an instrument first, you have a Stradivarius sitting against the wall.
I have my piano in my house, and I'm putting it there because it is a piece that it's a statement piece for the house. When people walk in, I want them to see that.
But
piano.
you use your piano and you play it, correct?
Yes.
So you look at it as an instrument.
It is an instrument that
as
is also,
well as a piece of art or furniture.
Instrument first.
That's what I was saying. It should be. It's
an
not
instrument first.
It's an instrument first, but don't knock down the beautiful aesthetics it has for that purpose.
And once you get to learn how to play it, then it'll be a better instrument for you.
Then I can learn how to play more than one song, apparently.
Exactly. Or stop copying mine that you ruin all the time.
Your song serves only one purpose for me: warm up.
It's the intro to the podcast.
Yeah. What, Aunt Rosie?
Have a playoff between the two of you.
He'll lose. He will lose.
Go.
Well, you cannot argue.
That's another podcast.
That's a great way to end this podcast.
Yeah, right?
So here's the thing.
I concur.
We are all talking about the same thing. Yes, I like to play devil's advocate, bust your chops here and stuff like that. But the main thing is that the true art of piano cannot be replaced. The true art of music cannot be replaced. Whether it's guitar, electric, anything, the true music is a real thing. And this is one of the things we should be talking about in the podcast. What are the benefits of piano music? Why is piano music so important to people? How is it scientifically proven that people who grow up listening to Mozart and classical music and things like that tend to have higher IQs? How is music healing? There's a lot of properties of music that are magical in the sense of that are just more than it's music.
That would be in another podcast.
Yeah.
No, that is what we're talking in this podcast.
But it's a proven fact that if you take piano lessons as a kid, you're using neurons in your brain you typically don't use, and it gets your left hand to do something different than your right, and it will make you smarter, it'll make you more disciplined, and you have patience, and they took a survey of Fortune 500 companies, the presidents, CEOs, whatever. And the one thing they all had in common out of all 100, they all took piano lessons. That's the only thing they had in common.
Well,
It's a proven fact.
sharpens your brain.
It does. Absolutely does.
Like I said, using different hats to keep different rhythms, different patterns, and things like that. And that is something that your brain doesn't say, oh, well, I'm only using the skill for piano, so when I do other things, now that skill that you learned, now don't apply it. It's your brain you're still using, so everything that you learn on piano, you can apply to other areas of life.
I would also say that like acoustic music is never going to die.
Nope.
You know, acoustic guitar, acoustic piano.
It's
like,
never going to die.
It has its own unique
Look
sound.
at in the last 20 plus years of music now, when bands tour, they're using digital. A lot of them use digital drums. They use electric pianos. They use all this kind of stuff, synthetic sounds, because it's easier, it's cheaper. They can get more tone out of it and stuff.
It's easier to manipulate.
Yeah, but no, I think like there's something to be said about true acoustics. I'll take classical piano music any day over synthetic piano music with electronic sounds and things like that. And not saying that there isn't good rhythms and melodies that you can do that way, but just something about taking a deep bass note and just letting that note ring and that trail, and like how you just feel like resonate.
You feel it in your soul. You feel it in your body. And the thing that the piano can do that no other instrument in the world can do is an artist, pianist, piano player can make that piano sound different than anybody else in the world, because their interpretation of how to, even if it's a very popular song, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, whatever, even if it's a popular song, they can transpose that into what makes it come out of them that no one else in the world has heard. No other instrument can do that. It just can't.
Well, music in general can do that. A guitar, you can do the same thing, but piano, you have a lot more capability to express yourself differently because it has 88 keys, plus it has a lot
Exactly.
more. But it's really fascinating that music theory in general, you take the same notes. What is it, 12 notes total for music? You have
within the
Western
octave?
music.
Western music, yeah. And with those 12 notes, you can have God knows how many types of songs, music, and everything being played. But yeah, I mean, any instrument you have out there, you take a guitar, you take a piano, you take a drum, and everybody can leave their own imprint and sound and signature on it. And that to me is what makes an artist a true artist, is somebody who connects their soul to the instrument, plays it with their soul, not just trying to repeat and reproduce what other people play.
And if you think about it this way, you can take the biggest artists in the world. Let's take Celine Dion and Andrea Bocelli. Okay? You put those two together, and when they sing, it's magical. Take an artist with a piano, and when you put those two together, it's magical. It's like there are times that you'll see it on American Idol, The Voice, whatever talent show, and you get that one person with that. The piano can produce so many different tones that no other instrument can do. But you put that one artist, Cody Lee from America's Got Talent, when he sat at the piano and he played the piano, oh my God. It was just like chills. I mean, I very, very rare and something very, very special that came out of him and the piano, because he was giving the piano what it needed and the piano was giving him what he needed. And when you combine those two together, it's like a very good marriage. Your soul. You combine those two together, you have something special that is rare. It really is rare in the big scheme of things.
So maybe the soul of the piano is the symbiotic relationship between the players.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in. We really appreciate it. Please tell all your friends, if you like this podcast, to tune in for our next one. We're going to be doing these bi-weekly. And please follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, Instagram, where you can see what we do behind the scenes here at the shop and get a true understanding of what actually goes into a piano. We hope you enjoyed, and please feel free to email us if you'd like to talk about some certain topics at info@hamiltonpianoco.com. Thank you.